from the New York Post, because this one's got big implications for 2024. A top strategist for JP Morgan predicts that Joe Biden will drop out of the 2024 race in March. And I agree. I believe that there's a strong likelihood that Joe Biden will drop out, and it all makes a lot of sense. Now, when we were talking about Newsom, this is last year, we're like, Newsom's probably going to be the guy. Joe Biden drops out. A bunch of people super chat into the show saying it's too late, Tim. They can't hold a primary now, so it's Biden or no one. Wrong. This is the perfect play. Joe Biden stays in, and then through no fault of his own, oh no, a medical issue. Oh, he's having heart murmurs or something. He can drop out. Then the DNC says, well, this is a catastrophe for us. I mean, what do? It's too late to have a primary. Guess we'll have to just appoint a nominee. Sorry, progressives. No Bernie Sanders for you. No Cenk Uygur. No RFK Jr. It's going to have to be Gavin Newsom.
Or Big Mike.
Yes, Michelle Obama.
I mean, I think that's a big possibility. I think Michelle would win. I
would have thought so a year ago. I'm not so sure today.
Not anymore.
Nope.
Okay.
No, because Trump's winning among the in the youth vote in numerous polls.
But, Tim, this is like you actually have faith in the election process. I mean, I know we can only say so much on YouTube, but I mean,
YouTube allows you to say the election was stolen.
I know
every
you can
degree.
now, but I still don't like messing with the terms of service. I just really have such little faith in our future election. And I think if they take him off the ballot.
Trump lost by only, like 44,000 or something?
It was like 3 states, like 11,000 votes in each state or something.
Exactly. Like so if you think that for all of their efforts, that's the margin they won by, and now with Trump, the polls are inverted. Yeah. Trump was down in the polls and only lost by like 40K votes. Imagine where he's going to be now. I mean, they can try and cheat all they want, and they're going to, and it's going to be embarrassing for them. They're not going to have the same level of ballot harvesting to assist Joe Biden. They would have to go full-scale fraud to try and cheat this time.
Did you know this stat from the past election? Donald Trump won every single state from their in-person voting. Joe Biden won every single state with mail-in voting.
For the first time?
I did not know that.
Yes, he even won the bluest states in in-person voting. Trump did.
Wow.
Yes. And the bellwether counties that typically always have been correct, this time were all completely wrong except for one.
And so, just the energy he had compared to Joe Biden.
Oh, yeah, there'd be like 4 people at the Biden rally.
Well, Biden didn't go anywhere. He was like basically campaigning from his house.
No, that's what I mean. There were like 4 housekeepers in his basement. Yeah.
It's like all of his kids and grandkids are held hostage.
I think the bulk of what worked for Democrats was ballot harvesting.
Yep.
You combine ballot harvesting with lax signature verification. What do you get? A guy
the safest election in history, Tim. How dare you?
Oh, sure. A guy goes to a nursing home and then says, I'm here to collect ballots I'm here to make sure everyone voted. Then goes to all these old people and says, just check this box and now sign it. And all these signatures are wacky because these older people have no idea what's going on. And then signature verification was way lax in many of these places. And even then, Trump still only lost by like 50 or so thousand votes. You take a look at the Trump campaign put out a big list of all the states where they think that he should have won. And the margins are microscopic. 10,000 here, 3,000 there. With Trump's polling today, with numerous polls showing that he's beating Joe Biden in the youth vote, the Democrats absolutely must remove Joe Biden and bring in Gavin Newsom or Michelle Obama. Because if Joe Biden runs and they keep him in and they do not remove him from the nomination or from the candidacy, Trump wins. Their only play is going to be Joe Biden, you are out. Someone else comes in.
Do you think Newsom has enough support among young progressives? Sometimes I feel like they are not willing to have another white male be the leader of their party, and that could siphon off
doesn't matter. I'll tell everybody right now. In 2020, everyone says Trump had all the energy and enthusiasm, but Joe Biden had no favorability, like no enthusiasm. The polling was like 20-something%, 24, 26. Trump's was like 90. Enthusiasm against Trump to oppose him was higher than enthusiasm for Trump, creating a big opportunity. So I will tell you this right now. The polls show that if it's Trump v. Biden, Trump crushes Biden in every way. But they also say Trump versus anyone else, and he loses by a little bit. We will see, considering the polls were heavily against Trump and he still only lost by like 44K votes. Yeah. Even if the polls are saying Trump's at, 49 to other candidates 50 or whatever, it's still indicative of a Trump victory. I do think, however, the most important thing imaginable is everybody's got to go campaign. You got to knock on doors. You got to register people to vote. You got to follow Scott Pressler on Twitter and just, when he says, here's how we register people, here's how we get them to vote, that's what you got to do. And you got to recognize if the Republicans are not preparing for the lawfare, it's already over. You've already lost 2024 election.
Well, I think Elon Musk said it. It's like whatever the most entertaining outcome is probably what's going to happen. And to what you're saying, Hannah, is like you'd think that you'd want this multicultural, progressive, Kamala Harris type candidate. But I think that irony, they're going to do the opposite, and they get another blue blood Joe Biden white guy like Gavin Newsom. It's like the opposite of what you expect. So that's why I think that he probably has a chance. But does he have the support behind him? No, I don't think so.
That's the thing. Like, Joe Biden's completely unpopular. Everyone thinks he's too old, including every poll that they do about him. Youth vote is not motivated for him. He's not gaining there. But they don't really have anyone else. I mean, I don't think they want it to be Biden, but I don't think Michelle would win. I don't think Gavin necessarily holds, at least long term. Maybe they could sneak through in kind of a desperate attempt, but I don't know that people actually want him to be the face of the party right now. They're very divided. We saw this with everything that came out with the Israel-Hamas conflict. I mean, the Democrats had to look themselves in the eyes and say, we are a split party, even though we're pretending that we are in lockstep this whole time. They're not.
If John Fetterman runs, would we vote for John Fetterman?
Who's we?
I'm just saying. I mean, would you like a Fetterman presidency if he was a Democratic nominee?
I mean, what we do know is if he was running against Dr. Oz, the nation would probably pick him.
Yeah. I mean, Fetterman has become sort of amusing, but I wouldn't vote for him.
No.
I mean,
he's my favorite Democrat, probably. Right.
Yeah,
now.
he was defending Israel, and he called out the crisis on the southern border. So I'm like, well, take what you can get, I guess.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the future for a lot of Democrats. I mean, we used to say this about Joe Manchin, right? He was the last of the blue dog Democrats.
Yep.
He represented a different time. And maybe the fact that he's leaving the Senate and several other people are starting to think, hey, this party is drifting too far. I need to start tacking back towards what used to be considered the middle. It's probably still just the left.
That's right. Well, this has happened in the past, right? So right after the Reagan era, Democrats realized that they had to be more conservative in order to get elected. So when you look at campaign ads from people like Bill Clinton back in the early 90s, it's a different kind of Democrat who's more moderate and wants to roll back the welfare state. And that's probably what's happening now. Democrats are realizing that they have to move to the right, or at least a little bit closer to the center on certain issues because of how far they've swung to the left. And we really saw this back in 2022 or 2021 with Joe Biden's State of the Union address. We watched it on this show, and he was really going on and on with talking points that were basically lifted from Trump about how we need to defend the police and secure the southern border.
I got to push back on what Alex said, however, which is not your quote, but Elon Musk's, that the most entertaining outcome, tends to be likely or whatever, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Like the outcome that's most entertaining is what's going to happen more likely or something.
I think that's what it sounds like.
It's incorrect. It's a point to be made that a lot of entertaining outcomes are happening, but the most entertaining outcome, absolutely not. The most entertaining outcome in this race would be if, like, tomorrow someone saw Trump and Biden walking down the street in DC holding hands, and when they were asked why they're doing it, they explain that they're simply sharing proteins, and then he asks,
protein strands, can you think of a better way?
Exactly. Right, Simpsons reference. Like, the most entertaining outcome would be like Joe Biden and Donald Trump playing patty cake in the White House lawn and us being confused and just laughing about the absurdity of it. No, the reality is it's going to be likely the most shocking in terms of entertaining. Okay, maybe this. Entertaining maybe is the wrong way to describe it, but perhaps the right word, because, like Die Hard is entertaining, which involves a lot of explosions and people dying.
Yeah.
Well, as you say that, I mean, what do you think the possibility is they can't get Trump off the ballot? And I would never want this to happen, obviously, but what if they did a Lee Harvey Oswald type situation? I mean, do you think that's possible in this day and age where there could be a presidential assassination?
Well, it's
or a
possible.
false flag.
A false flag. I'm just wondering, do we think that's possible? Is
Someone
that possible?
already tried to take Trump's life in his first run in it was 2015, I think. A guy at a rally tried grabbing a gun from a cop, I think it was, because he was trying to let's just say seriously hurt Donald Trump. But I think the likelihood that there is like a deep state attempt on the life of the president, in any capacity, be it Trump, Biden, or anybody else, is very, very, very low.
Yeah.
What you need is character disgrace, not martyrdom. If someone, look, we see this all the time with politicians. Assassinations will stop a politician and immortalize their ideas.
Yep.
So and hold on. Yeah. And an assassination attempt boosts their popularity and ensures their victory.
Yeah.
What would his legacy be if that happened? Would it be positive or negative?
for all of the Trump supporters and for everyone who comes after, he would be a legacy.
Yeah.
He already is going to be like the
he's already a martyr.
Well, no. They say who is the heir of MAGA, right? People are saying Vivek Ramaswamy. Already, Donald Trump is viewed this way. But if someone were to take his life, all they would do is dramatically empower MAGA 100-fold.
Yeah, they would.
So that is not the play.
And I think ultimately more than the enemy is better, right? Like the Democrats know who to attack with Trump. They kind of know his weaknesses, and they also position him as the party of the past. That's what Biden said in his first campaign speech, right? The MAGA party is focused on the past, but we're the future, and then spends the rest of his 30-minute speech saying, so this is what happened 3 years ago and why it's bad and all the repercussions. I mean, they really want it to be Trump because they think they know their enemy and whip up hysteria against him. Well, if something were to happen to him, an unknown candidate like Vivek or someone else would be almost more challenging, and therefore it's bad.
I think there's truth in that. I'll also mention this because I slightly disagree with what Tim said. I'm not making any prediction that Trump is going to be assassinated or that there's going to be an attempt on his life, but I will say they have repeatedly tried to assassinate his character, and it hasn't worked with his base, and it hasn't worked with a lot of the country, and if anything, it's just made people more skeptical of the media. And so at some point, if there really is a conspiracy to take a person out, you go from trying to assassinate the character in media, and if that doesn't work, some kind of conspiracy to try to imprison them, and if that doesn't work, you really only have one option left, even if it is a thing that'll turn him into a martyr, because what it does is it sends a message to the next person who might stand up and run for that position that they're going to have the same outcome as the last guy.
Well, and you really think about it, though, it's just an illusion that we actually have choice of right or left. Because, let's say it is not Trump. Let's say they kick him off the ballot. Then we have, listen, I like some of what DeSantis did in Florida, but, Nikki Haley, who's being so propped up by the establishment, even just said that the illegal immigrants across the border aren't criminals. So... That's
right. That's offensive to call them that?
That's what she just said. So it's like, give me a break that you think Nikki Haley's all of a sudden... we don't have anybody on the right that's really going to be our savior. And that's why we say this on the show all the time. It's idolizing a politician. It's like thinking the stripper actually likes you. It's all a facade. It's all fake, really.
I trust Vivek.
Yeah, I like Vivek.
Too.
No, I do too. I trust him.
I will say I trust Trump to be Trump. I have trust in Vivek, but let me clarify. That doesn't mean that I trust him absolutely. It's 51%, you know what I mean? Like, we'll see what he can do. He's just some guy talking to us right now.
I'll say this. Back when Tim was gone for a week and I had the honor of hosting Shimcast for a week for him.
It was the
worst week of the show ever, without question. It was awful. We bombed in the ratings and everyone hates me.
And
but
super chats were way down. Don't forget how low super chats were.
Super low. But one advantage was I also made Vivek hate me because he had to sit through a 2-hour interview with me. But through that 2-hour interview, I was really, I did. No, I really appreciated his answers. He wasn't just giving me political talking points. He went very deep on the issues. He was talking about things like how duties how rights are a product of duty and not the other way around. I was like, that's like, I say that all the time. And I really appreciated the fact that he had a very thought out worldview on the philosophy rather than just a series of policy positions. Because someone who's really thought out about their philosophy, who genuinely wants to bring those ideals to fruition in the real world, they're going to be a lot harder to get to flip-flop on certain issues because it's not just like a platform of issues that you can kind of compromise on. It's a whole entire worldview that you're going to want to hold to and that you're going to want to represent honestly.
And they have a way to navigate challenges.
Yes.
They don't have to have
that's right.
They have a framework from which they can make ethical decisions.
That's right.
Vivek is a really interesting guy. I've said this a couple times. If he is, not the VP or whatever, I would love to see him run in Ohio because I think he is the kind of person who could breathe energy into, a state that for all intents and purposes needs a little bit of boost. It's a very nice state, but there's not a ton of industry there. As far as I know, there isn't a ton of young people moving in and staying there. It could use strong leadership. And so I think with Vivek, there is a chance that he is able to do something on a small scale and then potentially in 2028 win people over, people who sort of weren't sure he was an untested quantity. He will just lose if he runs for another office, he does lose the edge of being the outsider, the non-politician. Sure. But does that matter if you have a proven track record of positivity?
Exactly. And what he gains is, again, the track record and the experience. One thing I think is hilarious and ridiculous about American politics is people put so much emphasis on experience that they are actually more willing to have someone who has experience, but all of it has been a complete disaster and they've destroyed everything they've touched, rather than someone who's an outsider coming in who has experience in the private sector and has done tremendous things in the private sector, doing things that are arguably far more difficult than public sector work or elected office. So people will go, well, Vivek, he just doesn't have the experience in government. It's like, okay, but a lot of these other people do have experience in government. It's all awful. And they've destroyed everything that they've had the opportunity to lead.
The experience they have is how to exploit
Yes.
their position in government.
Yes.
And Vivek's really smart. He's married to a surgeon. He was, he's just a smart guy, independently wealthy. And I think also and all the staunch Republicans are going to get mad, but that he did have liberal views and he's changed his viewpoints at a young age. I'm just saying that's kind of the ultimate person, is that seeing both sides. So
I agree.
I do think that's why he's so successful too, is that he's a disruptor. He's saying, hey, let's get rid of the FBI. Let's get rid of all these alphabet agencies. So, I mean, he's saying all the right stuff.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.